I did that thing again where I'm starting the stream on YouTube and all that and doing like the setup for it, but I forgot to start the starting soon screen. So I'm just going to continue setting this up. I'll even talk about it. So I use OBS and I do a multi-stream to YouTube and Twitch. And there's a bit of process to set up to it. I like doing a nice thumbnail for YouTube. I don't do thumbnails for Twitch yet, but at some point I'll figure that out a bit better. Then I also go into the stream on YouTube and I turn off the ads while the stream is going, because I watched the stream once and I did not like ads as I was streaming. It was interrupting what I was talking about and people were like, oh, I missed that because of a stupid ad. But I usually turn them back on after the stream, so there you go. Okay. Let's get into it. So today we're going to talk a little bit about fear. Yeah, fear of failure. So it's a interesting topic to talk about. We got into it yesterday, yesterday's stream with this painting at the very first session on this painting, or the second session on this painting. And I actually need to move my camera to the left a bit. Hold on. Okay, now you can see the whole thing. Hi, Michael, welcome. Vincent is not in the room, but I always appreciate you saying hello to my kitty cat. I appreciate that. So yesterday we were talking about fear within the moment, because the focus for this painting and for a lot of my recent paintings that I've done has been finding that balance between accuracy within the drawing and placement of the paint strokes. Like each individual paint stroke has a bit more weight to it when you're thinking about, I want it to go down in the right place with the right color, the right value, the right edges, and everything all at once. So there's a lot of weight to it. And I was going over some ways that you can make that process a little bit easier, a little bit closer to like getting it right the first time, because that's what we're worried about, getting it right the first time, quotes. You know, every time I say right and wrong, good and bad, I always put those in quotes because art is subjective. It's meant to be very subjective. And right and wrong is, you know, dependent on who is talking about it. But there's a lot of fear within that. And you're like, oh, I don't know. But I've prepared for it. And, you know, to get into the technical, fundamental kind of aspects of this, the paper that I'm working on, and I repeat this a lot because people that come into just a singular stream or singular video wants to know this. So this is 140 pound watercolor, hot press watercolor paper. So super smooth watercolor paper. And I've coated it with 2 coats of PVA sizing by Gamblin on the front and 1 coat on the back to lessen its absorbency tremendously. So I can put down, you can barely see it, like there's a little bit of paint on the paper in these places, and I've scraped it off and rubbed it off. So we can get back to the paper that much. It's why it looks a lot like watercolor, which is interesting. So that's something that can help with this idea of getting the stroke down the right way the first time by having something we can erase pretty easily. Okay. It's basically erasing when I scrape it down. So that's one thing. The other process is like, you know, I was talking about yesterday, planning, like doing the painting here on your palette as far as value is concerned and color and things like that, and really creating a comparison on your palette first and painting it here first, at least within color and value. That way, you know, it's going to be pretty close when you put it down. And then also planning out your brushstroke. There's nothing wrong with going into a space and feeling out the brushstroke, ghosting it over your canvas a few times before you commit and let it down, right? Like this stroke here, where the arm of the glasses is casting a shadow is super important, but I wanted to get that right. I didn't, it wasn't quite right. And so I scraped it out. It left like a shadow of that paint there, and it was good. But there's a lot of fear in that moment, a lot of fear of like, oh crap, I'm going to do this wrong. And of course, without saying the unsaid, there's also a lot of training behind all of this. I think in these moments where I'm really thinking about very specific strokes and planning it out, getting it right the first time, these fearful moments, when I'm thinking about that, I also think about that saying from, I don't know where it came from with Picasso, where he does a quick drawing for a person that wanted him to do a drawing for him, in a few seconds. And he asks for like this tremendous amount of money for it from this person that he just hands it to. And like $5,000. And they say, well, it only took you a few seconds. And his response is, no, it took me my whole life. So that training that backs up a lot of these initial strokes, these like strokes that go down in the right way, quote unquote, right way, the first time. It goes without saying that there is a lot of learning behind that. There's a lot of idea behind that, a lot of time and effort behind that. I think that's important as well. And, anytime we get into I get into a training scenario and I'm trying to talk to people about my ideas within art and how to move through this art game, and giving examples of how I do things to find their own way in a lot of ways. There's this unsaid thing that, okay, time and effort is there and it needs to be there. We need to train it just like we would anything else. And I'm doing the same here. I'm still thinking about putting the strokes down in the right place with the right direction, with accurate drawing, with edges that work well, the correct value, the correct color, all that all in once. So it's a bit difficult. And then trying to be expressive about it too, not being so like stilted with it. Like there's this cast shadow that I want to fill out the form on this hand. So it's like a kind of a cast shadow and form shadow connected here on the backside of the hand. And so what I want to do is kind of explain that a bit more, a bit better. So if I'm going to do it, I want to do it in one big stroke or several definite kind of strokes of doing things. And as I'm talking about this, I'm thinking about a couple artists because Saturdays is when I meet with some artist friends on Discord. And it's like how we connect because they're in different parts of the world or the country, the United States. And so that's my only way of connecting with them. And we were talking about like the difficulty, the fear that's involved in having to be brave with, this simplicity. So I'm going to bring up a couple artists that I want you to see. I'm finding one in my folder, but then I have some websites of others. So this is Terry Mira, M-I-U-R-A, terrymira.com, their website. And a really great example of texture and simplicity Just love these paintings. They're so simple, yet they say so much. There's a lot of paintings within here that deal with, these very sharp edges in certain points, and then really lose a lot of that edge in other points. Terry Mura, fantastic. You can see a lot of wonderful examples of this type of texture. And you can feel within these paintings that everything that's put down has a purpose to it, has a deep purpose to it, and is thought out and has specificity to it. These are pretty small. This is 18 by 18 oil on linen. So pretty small painting. So these strokes, every stroke that we put down within these smaller sizes, I'm working in, this is 6 by 9. So of course, every stroke that goes down is going to make some kind of impact. So we have to be mindful, or I need to be mindful of that, not we, in a lot of ways. Then Scott Connery, Conara, like Sean Connery, but Scott, the artist. This is super influential because we were talking about paintings like this today. And my friend Mike Ulrich knows Scott Connery, and he does these within life drawing. So this is in person in front of the model. He's super quick, just beautiful paintings of the model. Borders on abstraction, gets really close to abstraction. It's about this kind of feeling of what's there. And of course, you can also see that Scott Connery is doing things with a lot of texture that's really interesting. All of this brushwork is just gorgeous. It's amazing. Lost edges, hard edges, and the specificity within that, the simplicity of it. Really love these paintings. Just fantastic. So that's Scott Connery. And then on my computer, I'm looking at an artist that I've watched paint in videos, maybe on YouTube or something. This is David Shevlino, Shevlino, Shevlino. So you can see I'm working from this image here, and how I know from watching him paint that each of these strokes are planned, right? They're every single one is very important. Some of these images are low quality. There's a bravery within the moment within these strokes, not only to put it down in the right place the first time and going for that. Look at the tail on this horse, just one big thing. That instant kind of motion, but also some bravery of like, I don't need to describe every single thing. I like, the legs of this horse. Look at this. I mean, we can, it's like we're a detective, and we can move through this painting and see where this brush stroke began and where it ended. We can feel how much paint was in that brush at that moment, how little paint was in this one. We can kind of go through it, and it's almost like a historical accounting of every single one of these. Much different than very detailed paintings where the brushwork has no history to it, no essence of the artist. It's almost like they don't want the hand of the artist or the brush to be evident within it. But looking at these artists and seeing what they're doing, and their bravery, their defiance of fear within the face of like the instant moment of putting the brushwork down or putting the brushstrokes down, and also the bravery that extends a bit further beyond that within an idea of simplicity. I don't need to describe every single thing. I want the poetry within it, and I want to risk some confusion at the beginning with our viewer, and that's okay. Doing that in the service of simplicity, the service of expressiveness. And also, I kind of subscribe to this notion that the more or the less that I do well, the less strokes that I put down, and that all those strokes are done well, whatever that means, for me, I feel that it can invite the viewer in to the painting and to have their own idea of what it should be or what it's saying or its narrative. I'm looking at these shapes. It's more about shape language. Let me make this a bit bigger. So we're looking at the hand on the right here, and that second finger over, and making this like simple shape out of it. And I'm probably going to bring all these shapes together into one. Hi, Omar. Welcome. Hey, Chris, Sunday our time. Are we going to do video chat on Google Meet? Yes, I'm sorry. I replied to your email finally. But it is Google Meet, but it's not Sunday. Not Sunday. It's Monday or Tuesday. I do a one-on-one mentorship, and Omar here has signed up for one. Thank you. And actually, Travel Seeker, another person that shows up on the stream, is paying for them, which is awesome. And yeah, Omar, you signed up for 2 slots, a Monday and a Tuesday. So let me know which one you would rather do, Monday or Tuesday. Or if neither of those days work for you, we can work out a different day. I'm doing this thing with Google where you can have like booking pages, so that I kind of put in my schedule, what I have time for, and then anybody that wants a mentor uses that to match up their schedule to mine. And it's a little confusing at first, I think, which is fine. Technology, we got to learn it as we go, right? It's totally fine. So, every one of these strokes that I'm putting down, there's a little bit of a fear that is attached to it. I'm right here in this area that doesn't matter tremendously. It's not, super essential, and I feel like I could scrape it out if it's not working right. Move back into it in other ways. So there's a little bit less fear here, which is fine, which is good. I'm happy with that. So it's nice to kind of sneak into this painting today, because the next thing I want to do after I kind of establish this shape of this hand, the form of this hand, make it look a little bit more like a hand. I'm going to move up into the focal point, which I thought the focal point was going to be the eyes and the glasses, and no, that's not it. The focal point here on this narrative are the lips and the hands, it's specifically where the fingertips touch the face, their face. And so that's very specific, very important for the narrative of this painting. But I didn't want to jump right into that because it's such an important part of this painting that I'm just kind of like, I want to sneak up on it a little bit. Get some confidence by doing working on an area that isn't super. I mean, it's necessary, yes, like every part of the painting is important, but it's not at this point where it's going to, if I make some bad strokes, it's not going to screw up the whole narrative of everything. That's what I'm worried about. That's where the fear comes in. And specifically with this painting on a broader level, the fear of screwing up what I've already done, because we can do some things on a painting or work on a painting and go, oh man, I'm really loving how this is going. And it happens all the time. Like we can start out with a few strokes and it just looks fantastic. And then maybe we overwork it. Maybe we do certain other things and it just doesn't come out as well as we expected. And I hear a lot of artists that say that all the time. It's part of it. It's part of this wonderful game, and learning how to keep that together. And to also remember that skill is a big proponent of this. I know that there's a lot of artists out there that feel that luck is involved with painting. And it doesn't And it doesn't have to be. Okay. I'm not going to say it's not, because, a lot of this is like, if I'm trying to put the brushstroke down in the right place, sometimes, things work in my favor and I feel like, okay, it went down exactly perfect. Maybe there's a few strokes where I'm not thinking about it. My brain isn't like so deeply wired into that brushstroke that I'm really focused on it, and then it goes down just easily and perfectly anyway. That feels more like luck. And when we're talking about parts of the painting where we're not focusing too much, we're not thinking deeply about it, and it just ends up being good, that's where I see luck kind of coming in and being involved in this art thing. It is not, in my opinion, this is not something that you want to rely upon. Like, if you're thinking, oh, I just got unlucky on this painting and, it didn't turn out well and I'm not sure why, I think that's a wonderful indication of a lack of focus and a lack of understanding. Maybe you're moving too fast, for your brain to catch up, that kind of thing. But I think we can move through a painting and all these moments in a painting with focus, with intention, and come out with something that has a better chance. Here we go in that luck word again, chance and all this other stuff. We can give our paintings lots of better chances for looking better, our drawings looking better, if we plan it, we think about it, we move through it in that way. I've done so many paintings in my life where it's just been, I want to turn my brain off and I don't want to think about it. I just want to do a quick painting. I just want to have some fun, just put some brush strokes down. Don't worry about it. It's okay. In that instance, I think luck is definitely one of those things we have to worry about, or we have to think about, like, oh, I got lucky on this one because I wasn't trying, wasn't thinking about it. I was just putting it down. Then we look at some of the best artists ever on the planet. And I think we tend to do this with ourselves. We think about luck within ourselves. But when we look at master artists, when we look at artists that we look up to, things like that, we don't really attribute luck to it, I think. Maybe this is just my brain kind of thinking my way. But when we think about ourselves, we go, oh, that we were just lucky on that one. And I do that all the time. Like, we went bowling the other day and I got a few strikes and it was definitely luck. I wasn't trying really hard. I was just having fun. And the ball just happened to go in the right place. I felt like that was just complete luck. But I don't want my art to be based completely in this idea of luck. Like I never know how a painting's going to come out or anything like that. Like, it's more of me not understanding what to do, and it just kind of happens. It's a real fixed mindset, I think, when we think about luck in a lot of ways, because we all only have so much luck and we can't get any more. But I disagree in thinking about painting in that way, in this kind of fixed way. I think we can affect this entire process and give ourselves better chances. And see, even chances is not a good word there. It's, words matter. That is not a good word. I didn't arrive at everything I'm doing right now, how it looks good, unintentionally. Every single stroke had a really important intention to it. I knew where it needed to go, what direction, how big the stroke needed to be, the color, the edges, everything. And I put it down quickly and simply. And some of them did not go down well. And I said, okay, I need to scrape that off and try it again. And that's what I want. I want to have that control over it, where I say and I direct where it is, and it is intentional. And that's why, when we're talking about the fear of doing things, I think a lot of it is based in this luck. Like, I don't want to screw it up. I fear to screw up this painting. Hi, Chris. Welcome. And if we go at this painting, if I'm going at this painting here and I'm afraid of screwing something up, and I think about it in that way, in some of those terms, it does feel like I'm relying upon luck in that instance. But if I come at it practically, right, and I say, okay, I definitely love what I put down. Let's think about the next steps in this painting specifically, and bring a lot more intention to what I'm doing. So the intent for this area here doesn't look like it right now. Still has it doesn't have a deeper understanding of fingers and hand. And boy, that paint is hard to apply without coating, right? Well, I mean, I do have a coating on here. So let me finish this thought real quick. I want to simply describe this hand. That shape, the shadow shape here, it's a bit of both cast shadow and form shadow connected in one place. You know, that shadow on that hand, how it goes up into the fingers. You can turn it into all one shape, but how can I do that very simply so that it still looks like a hand, right? You know, just a few shapes. So that's what I'm trying to do right now. Sorry that this is so dark, but if I lighten it up, it blows out everything a little bit too much. So yeah, this paper is coated. It's coated with PVA sizing, 2 coats on the front, 1 coat on the back. Boy, that paint is hard to apply without coatings. All right, yeah, but if you have painted, because I think you were talking about it yesterday, about putting coats of something on canvas or paper. If you try it without it, yeah, I mean, the paper or your surface definitely soaks all of that oil out of the paint, and it turns a little bit into clay. I got that word from Nicholas Uribe. He calls it clay, and I was like, yeah, it does. You know, when you pull all the oil out of the paint and it, you know, through the paper, like it goes through the paper, it does feel like clay, because at that point it's just the pigment and maybe just a tiny bit of oil. So I'm going to try this here. I can't scrape this color out. So I'm going to use just straight titanium white to see if I can blend it in with the paper. Because I feel like, you know, that was a bit of that shadow that exists on the shirt. And I think it's messing with the major shape of that hand, the edge of that hand. I wanted to say hand a bit better. And that doesn't look too bad. Doesn't look too bad. Now, as far as painting on raw paper, or, you know, like a oil paper without any ground on it, to keep it non-absorbent, or any kind of paper, just painting directly on it, even though it soaks up all of that paint and it gets really thick quickly, it can work nicely in a lot of ways. I mean, I worked like that on many paintings. I didn't put any coating on it whatsoever, or just 1 coat of GAC 100 or 1 coat of PVA size. And it really changed, you know, that absorbency, really changed how the paint went down. But it has a really interesting feel to it, a really interesting look to it. If you want to get rid of all the glare while you're working, like if you're working on a painting that needs to go like just black, like you have to paint black directly on the canvas, working on a raw paper or some raw surface that soaks all that oil out can really help to turn everything very matte. So you don't get that glare. It has a really interesting feel to it. And remember, I always say this, Chris. I've said this several times, not always say this, but there's a connection between the surface, the brush, and the paint itself. So you could change your brushes and it feels completely different. Have a softer or harder brush, a bright versus a long flat, and that can totally change how that paint feels. And you can go from, I hate this to, oh, this is nice now, just by changing a brush or changing your paint brand. Like if you went to like a M Graham that has a lot more, like a lower viscosity to it, it moves around a lot better. That could change how it feels on the canvas. Always a big part of it. I'm of a mind, like I don't use mediums that much because I just like to change the paint. I don't want to have to worry about mixing up a medium in my paints just to get them to feel how I want them to feel on the painting that I'm working with. Just my way of working, there's my specifics within that. So if I was, let's say I wanted to work on some raw paper right now, I'd probably get out like an M Graham that I have, the M Graham sets of paint, so that it moves around a little bit easier. That would help with the absorption of the oil out of the paint into the surface. I have to look at this on the digital. I love looking at my painting here on the stream or in OBS as I'm working, because it helps me get really far away from it, like remove myself from the painting. I think I might refine a little bit of this here before I move up into the focal point. It's going to be a slow painting day. When we're talking about fear, we're talking about moving slowly, thinking about each stroke we put down. There is going to be some slowness there, for me at least. Okay. I'm not sure how I feel about this yet. Not sure how I feel about this shape. Does it say hand yet? In a very simple way. I don't think it's there yet. I think it's close, but not there. So I'm gonna move away from it for a moment. Let it kind of sit in my brain. Move to a different part of the painting, and then come back to it. Yeah, because there's a couple things that I see that I'm kind of missing. Welcome, Travel Seeker. How you doing? Happy Saturday. Yay. Curious how you're going to approach that background with the bokeh. That's a really good question. I'll zoom in to answer that for you. How I'm going to treat it? I am not going to do it. I decided yesterday, and we were talking about it yesterday on stream. Check it out if you want to get a chance. That the narrative on this painting here is all about, and I can read from my notes and tell you exactly, like, what do I want to communicate, which is love, empathy, soft, caring, inner thought, private, emotion, and introspection. All those words is what I'm trying to translate into paint. And when I was thinking about, we were thinking about introspection. We were, and I was looking at all this negative space here and how the positive space becomes a negative space. I really feel that all this negative space speaks more to introspection and quietness and internal thought more than if I just filled it up. So I'm going to keep the background gone and keep this as simple as I can. I don't think I'll paint anything here, 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 all on this side. Not at all. And the cat hairs really show up well on the white paint, the white paper, I tell you. And I was talking about, I'm glad you reminded me of this. Yesterday I was talking about this idea of oh gosh, I just had it up in comic book how to. I just had it up in Amazon. Sorry, I'm actually going to make a point here. And this is the book, I believe. But I was talking about negative space and like in music, it's a lot of music with like Asian artists or Japanese artists where silence is a big proponent of that music, where the absence of notes is just as important as the notes. And I was talking about this book here. This is Understanding Comics, The Invisible Art by Scott McCloud. And then Scott's also got a bunch of other books. But I remember Understanding Comics, The Invisible Art. I think that's the book, his first book, I think. And that's where my brain went to when I was thinking about those moments of silence, because he was talking in that book about these moments in like a comic book strip or on a page where silence and space was just as important as the visual images, because it conveyed a different feeling, a different idea. And I was like, okay, I'm going to keep that negative space, keep that idea of silence, because it feels like silence to me. It feels like introspection. It feels quiet, right? Now, whether it feels like silence or introspection to you guys, it's up to you, you know. My alternative for, any alternative for PVA size? Yes. GAC 100 by Golden is really nice. It is thicker. It does leave a texture, but it's the only other two that I've been using. There's also a clear gesso you can try too. I've never tried that. There's a watercolor ground. I'm not sure if it's clear though. See, I'm talking about clear things. PBA size, GAC 100, clear gessos, the clear things, okay? Doesn't have to be clear. Could be white, could be gray, could be black. Yeah, any of those things. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Have you used liquid or varnish? Liquid, yes. Years and years ago, I quickly threw it in the trash because it smells so bad. It's an alkyd medium, gel medium that lots of people use. And yeah, it is one of the worst smelling and most used mediums out there. So if smells are a problem for you, Chris, avoid it like the plague. Definitely like the plague. And all alkyd mediums are like this, okay? It's not exclusive to liquid. For example, I was working with Winsor Newton Griffin paints, Gryfn, I think. I don't know how to spell Griffin, sorry. And they are an alkyd-based paint as well. And man, they smelled so bad. I loved how fast they dried. Like, I like the idea of fast drying paint in a lot of ways. But the smell wasn't as bad as liquid, I will say that. But it was bad enough for me to have headaches from it very soon after smelling it. That's how bad it was for me. I'm very sensitive to smells. They really set off migraines and headaches for me. So I'd rather be pain-free, personally. I know it's kind of weird wanting to be pain-free, but that's me. Okay. Now I'm getting into very important, like super duper, the most important part of this painting. The drawing of these lips, the values, the edges, the color needs to be right on. There's a lot of fear within every stroke that's getting put down right now. I was talking yesterday and days before about watching someone painting and then being the painter is a very different experience. I'm painting and oof, see, that went down in the wrong space. I'm painting and I'm afraid and I'm feeling all this emotion, but watching it, I can't communicate it too well. It'd be nice if it could be a lot more exciting to watch people paint. If we could communicate that emotion a bit better, but not sure how. So smaller brush, using a bright there. My favorite brushes that I use are these really cheap brushes. I have expensive brushes and I barely touch them, except for right now. Varnish. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about varnish real quick and give you my opinions on this. When I was doing water mixable oils, which, these are traditional oils, I've switched back to traditional oils. And the only reason I switched back to traditional oils, well, two reasons. Water mixable oils tend to be a little bit sticky. They feel a little bit different. Not a big deal for me. That's not a big deal. I can work with paint feeling sticky or thick or like clay. It's fun. It's interesting in some ways. So that was one thing. The other reason why I moved away from water mixable oils, and the bigger reason, was all the water was splaying out my brushes, and the brushes are expensive now. And I wanted to keep them for a while. I still have my water mixable oils. I'll still jump back into them every now and then when the necessity is good. But the great thing about water mixable oils that I found was the varnishes. But there's a caveat here, okay? There's a caveat to it. The varnishes don't use any solvents that I know of. Specifically the Winsor & Newton, like satin, matte, or gloss varnishes for water mixable oil. No solvents, don't smell, dry really fast, go on well everywhere. Oh, this is the best varnish I ever used. I'm like, oh my God, this varnish is so good. And I use it on my traditional paintings as well. Because once water mixable oils are dry, they're exactly like traditional oils. I mean, they are oils. There's the same oil that is in traditional oils, just adjusted a bit so that it's water miscible. Okay. But the problem with that is I'm doing a number on those paintings for archival purposes, because this is the type of varnish they say wait 6 or 12 months before you varnish this painting with this type of varnish. But I don't wait. I wait maybe a month and I varnish it. So that's how I roll with varnish. I hate varnishes because I do have traditional varnishes, Winsor & Newton, Gamvar, which I do not like Gamvar. It doesn't smell as bad as other varnishes, right? But it doesn't want it to adhere right and all this other stuff. So the other traditional varnishes that have solvent in them, I've destroyed paintings with those varnishes because the paint maybe feels really dry and it's fine. And then you go to varnish it, and you pick up a bunch of paint and you just spread it everywhere. And it's like, oh, it's the worst feeling. So that's my opinion on liquid and varnishes. I hate Al Could Smell Too, Travel Seeker says. Smells like shoe shine. Yeah, it's bad. It's kind of like, have you if you guys have ever been in like a nail salon, oh, those places kill me. I die in those places. I don't see how people can exist in nail salons without like coming out of there with some kind of lung damage or whatever. It's terrible. All the chemicals they use, and the nail polish and the nail polish remover, and the chemicals are so bad. But we don't think about it. We just get our nails done. I've never gotten my nails done, but you know what I'm saying. The smells just kill me. Okay. moving slowly through this. Another thing that we can do if we're feeling fear about putting paint down, right? There's going to be this fear. We don't want to screw up stuff. We've heaped all this importance upon this painting, and now we're afraid. We don't want to screw it up, right? Move slower. Move a little bit slower, a bit more intentionally. Slow down. It's okay. Move through it. We've prepared the surface to be able to scrape things back. We've prepared, this idea. We've worked before on putting paint down quickly in certain areas when we want to. And if that stroke doesn't go well, it's okay. I can scrape it off. Try again. Medium talk incoming. Ha ha ha. I sub alkyd based mediums to aid drying with pale drying oil or gel. Pale drying oil or gel. The additive is manganese, I believe. Has to be used sparingly. Oh, never knew that. Manganese? Wow. As long as it doesn't smell and it works well. It's not a heavy metal, I don't think. Manganese? I'm not sure if it's a heavy metal. Is this piece water mixable oils, Chris? I'm considered making the switch too. No, this is traditional oils. Tell me why you want to make the switch to water mixable oils. And honestly, I wouldn't think of it like that. I would say, I want to try water mixable oils and see if I like them. And then hang on to them if you don't, because that's a really big possibility. The oil paint is all about the feel of it. That's what people love about oil paint, is how it feels. And water mixable oils, the reason why they haven't taken off like crazy is because they do feel a bit different than traditional oils. Some people are more sensitive to that feeling. Other people are not. So you'll get into it, and depending on the brand, it could be a bit more sticky, less sticky, not have the mediums that you want. I think they could be wonderful for you, or you could hate them. There's that chance. Did you try baby wet wipes? Not yet. I haven't left the house. I was thinking about going. I need to go to Walgreens and get my medication today, or some medication today. So I was like, oh, I gotta get the baby wet wipes and a couple other things. But yeah, going to. I have it on my list. It's there. I'm not lying to you. It's there. Like, I even have things on my list still, like mineral paper and watercolor ground, because I want to try those surfaces at some point. It's on my list to buy, but I have so much paper right now that I'm like, no, I need to use this up first. I don't need to start collecting materials again because I have so many materials. Now I've made this color, this stroke. You see that stroke there? It's incongruent. Hopefully I can scrape it off. Doesn't work there. I need to get close. This is one of these things where we do one movement. You see that? Scraping off a little bit. Maybe my head's in the way. I don't know. I'm really close. Wiping my palette knife off after I scrape off even the smallest bit. And then going back to it. Now I can go down the length of the finger, I think. I'll have to put some of this back. I did affect the shape of that finger, and I want to get that shape back a little bit differently. So the one thing about palette knives, if you're trying to be very specific about it, I'm going to talk about this little nuance within painting. If we go to scrape something, let's say I'm scraping some paint off my palette, because I'm not going to do it on there. I don't want to screw it up. So the fear of that. If I scrape this moment, I'm going to scrape it down, remove from there. But then if I say, okay, I want to get this extra bit, and if I don't clean this paint off and I just go back into it, you see how I put down paint at the beginning there? So we got to be careful of that. Like, very mindful of scrape, remove the paint off the palette knife, scrape again, remove the paint off the palette knife. Greg Manchess, who Hall of Fame illustrator, amazing artist. So I was doing, and I talk about this a lot, was doing the mentorship with him through Smart School online. And he was talking about his process of using a palette knife. He uses a palette knife a lot in his paintings. Manchess is Manchess. And amazing, beautiful, like brushy palette knife work, just gorgeous work, like tremendous skill with a palette knife. But he was talking about how he would take his palette knife and then kind of make sure that he got a particular amount in a place on the palette knife. Like, this is tiny stuff, right? So, oh, well, that's too much on, it's too wide of a shape on the palette knife. I need to make it smaller. So you wipe it off and get a smaller shape of paint on the end of that palette knife, Okay, maybe a little bit bigger, and then shape the paint on the palette knife before he would put it in the place on the painting. Like that kind of preparatory work, that kind of like thinking about the next specific shape that's going to go down and how important that is. It really kind of blew me away. I was like, oh, okay. I thought that artists were on X level. I knew that artists really planned out each brushstroke. I knew that was there. I knew that's a possibility. But I didn't know that some of the best artists on the planet took it to that much of a level where the painting looked like it was executed freely with all kinds of expressive mark making and lots of hand movement that was really quickly done. But then the description of the actual process was very, very, very thought out and meticulous. Meticulous. That's a really good word for that process. Like there is all this thought within, I want this to look expressive and done quickly and simply, but it doesn't mean I have to move my arm and hand around really fast. And it could be this very thought out thing. Better. Much better. This edge needs to be very soft there and lighter. Yes. And I did some just plain white in some places here, just straight on there. I think I want to do it on this finger. Yeah, the top of that finger there. Is this my white brush? Yes. Manganese is what makes the umbers fast drying. There are traces of it in those pigments that are naturally occurring. Oh, nice. Yeah, because like burnt umber, raw umber, man, next day, dry completely. I just don't want to work with solvents, and while so far I've managed with oils, I still think water-based media is more convenient, but I don't really enjoy using acrylics, gouache, or watercolor. Yeah, I agree, because with acrylics and gouache and water, especially with acrylics, gouache as well, like I had to get a stay wet palette for gouache and acrylic to keep things wet. And it has to be flat. It can't be vertical like this. I never worked in watercolor. I'm not going to even speak about watercolor. That's the annoying part for me with gouache and acrylics, is having to have a different palette, setting that up and getting everything wet, and then to keep it wet on the palette for a while. Now, the advantage of acrylic is being able to layer and layer and layer and layer really quickly. There's something to be said about like an acrylic underpainting being done really fast and expressively, and then going over that with oils to get the properties of oils that we love, you know? I seen Nicholas Uribe do that recently on some of his paintings, where he would do an acrylic underpainting real quick and then oil over the top of it. It worked really well, really well. Now, gouache is nice. Same thing. I would need, I got a Stay Wet palette for gouache when I was using it. I love the matte quality of gouache where it goes on. You don't have to worry about glare. It's a medium that it really asks for single stroke application. Like, put it down right the first time and don't touch it. Like, you can reactivate gouache. That's the next advantage thing about it. You know, it's different from acrylic unless you get acrylic gouache, which, you know, it's kind of weird. You know, like, why do that? I think the advantage to gouache is the fact that you can reactivate it. It's basically opaque watercolor. Love gouache. But again, the whole Stay Wet palette thing is kind of annoying. I think gouache is the closest thing to oil, honestly. And, you know, non-toxic everywhere because it's all acrylic and blah, blah, blah. That kind of thing. The plastic of acrylic and maybe gouache, the plastic of a lot of things are not good for the environment. So you do have to think about that. Disposal of them should be done a little bit with a little bit more thought than I put into it. I need to put more thought into it. The water mixable oils is I think a really good marrying of water media and oils. I really do. I think that's where it lies. I don't think there's a lot of advantage as far as cleanup, though, and I talked about that in my water mixable oil video, because the cleanup I have for my traditional oils is easier than water mixable oils for me. So there's not an advantage there. Where I do see an advantage, there are artists that work this way a lot, where in traditional oils, they use solvent for their initial layers. It doesn't like dry really quickly, but it is a very lean layer without any fat in it. Does dry pretty quickly. I mean, quicker than any layers that go over it. But it lends itself well to other layers of paint that go over initial layers that have solvent in them. That's the advantage of solvent. And painting without solvents, like a solvent-free environment with traditional oils, I have not found any medium to replace that feeling. That feeling is part of what solvent does. So if you like that initial layer with solvent that dries quickly and layers well with paint over top of it, water mixable oil is the only place that you can kind of get that without solvents, because using water or the Winsor Newton thinner, those are the only things you have used, or a water mixable oil thinner can get you that without using solvents. And I felt that that was the bigger advantage of that. And I talk about all of this in that water mixable oil video I did. I mean, I don't work with solvents with traditional oils. I don't touch solvents. You don't need it. There's no reason you need it other than that, what I just talked about, that initial layer. And if you love that, travel seeker, if you love that feeling, Water mixable oils is your next stop, in my opinion, on maybe to try and find that feeling again without solvents. There's such, now that I'm moving through this slowly and kind of acknowledge the fear of this painting and not wanting to screw it up. And after kind of starting slow over here, figuring some things out, I feel like this is starting to be a little bit more meditative. Like the focus has come in again, and I'm like, okay, just really think about everything that I'm putting down and move through it like this. So it's feeling very calm now. I'm moving slowly. I'm thinking about specifics within edges, within value, within color. Thinking about even the smallest narrative of, the shadow shape on this finger and what it says. Not really narrative, but like the shape of that form, and really trying to describe that a little bit more fully, and how necessary that is for this part of the painting, how necessary that moment is. It's a lot to do with edges right now. I'm feeling like everything has become the edges of this initial strokes that I put down. Like all those initial strokes. I mean, I could have just stopped the painting and said, "Hey, that's done. That's good enough. I don't need to describe more than that." And I think that would be fine. I want to push it a little bit further. That's why I'm working on it today. But as I'm working through it, I'm still respecting those initial layers that I put down and understanding that those are important, and not trying to adjust them too much. Just saying, okay, this painting could exist with just those layers. So all I'm doing with this is just enhancing for a little bit more clarity, a little bit more understanding in places. Okay. I think I missed a couple comments. Sorry. Let me go back. Do you put the tops of these paints? I'm going to try that acrylic coating. Do you put the tops on these paints? Do you mean, do I cap them after? Do you put the tops on these paints? I'm going to try that acrylic coating. I don't know what you mean by putting the tops on these paints. Like, do I put the top back on them after I squeeze them out? Yeah. Yeah, if you could add some clarity to that question, Chris, please. Sorry, I'm slow like that. It's not you. It's definitely me. So there is not a clear separation between this finger here, the pinky finger, and the neck. And I'm thinking, do I need that separation? Yeah, I want it to be a little bit more clear. And I think I can do it with one stroke if I can just get that value where I wanted it. Just lightning, just every time I say that, it sounds like I'm talking about a thunderstorm. Just bringing that value closer to white, I think will do it. A little bit more red. I'm actually warming it up as well, like on the yellowish red side. And then I want to bring a little bit more of that dark background down, but I'm not going to do it the color, that blue color, that shirt though. Hi, Dennis. What's happening, sir? Everything, all kinds of craziness is happening. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like this slow, methodical way of painting. But yeah, there's a lot of fear going on with me not wanting to screw up this painting. Dennis says, there's a medium by Schminke that transforms traditional oils into water mixable. Yeah, I use that. It's medium W or medium M. It's not too bad. It does. And then there's, you can get into the crazy science of it. I don't want to get too deep into it. But you can use a percentage of traditional oils with water mixable oil, and it still is water mixable because there's enough of that linseed oil or safflower oil in the water mixable oils that actually affects traditional oil that you're adding to it to keep it water mixable. It's the same as adding that Schminke medium to what you're working on, right? There's a couple of them out there that do that. That's too dark. I like the Schminke medium. It was kind of nice to turn, your traditional oils water mixable, but it is, it is a gel, right? Which is nice. I got that one because it could be on my vertical palette, no problem. But the problem with it that I didn't like, because I love opaque paint and I wanted to keep everything very opaque, is it would bring in a lot of transparency. And I didn't like that. So be careful on that aspect of it. You will bring a lot of transparency to those paints. Change the feeling of them a little bit. That could be really helpful depending on what you're working on or how you're working, or it could be detrimental. Okay, that's a bit too dark. Too much attention there. And I have a kitten at my legs, rubbing all over me and biting me. Stop it. I will pay attention to you in a second. That's how she gets attention. She doesn't bite me. She puts her teeth on me. She's like, I'm going to bite. No, don't do that. You're so funny. And I have to apologize, guys, but, family does come first. So let me put down a couple more strokes, LaFay, and then I'll put the stream on pause and figure out what you want. Yeah, I do love that kind of line coming down. It's like a connector through the whole thing. It's pretty nice. Okay, I'm going to be right back. I'm going to take care of my kitten, and then we'll talk more about this painting and everything else. Actually, I'm just going to leave this up, and I'm not going to put the be right back screen up. I'll be right back. Come on. Let's figure it out. You want to see the kitten? Here's the kitten. Oh, as Daddy falls over. Here's the kitten. Come on. Okay. And I got a couple nuts to eat. Travel Seeker, you literally said you don't want to go into the science of it, but now I'm curious. Is the linseed oil what's modified or treated to make it soluble in water? Yes. The linseed oil and sometimes sunflower oil. I've never seen walnut oil in water mixable oils. Safflower oil, sorry, not sunflower. So yeah, they do some magic with those oils to make them water miscible. I liken it in my non-scientific brain to adding an emulsifier to salad dressing. Like, what is it? Eggs or mayonnaise or something that's an emulsifier. I think it's eggs. Like with oil and salad dressing to get, the oil and all the other water and whatever to kind of mix together. Like that. That could be freaking way off to the exact science of it. But that's how I'm connecting it in my brain. And we tend to connect paints all the time, oil paints all the time with food, right? When we're talking about the way certain paints feel. I like the buttery quality. When we talk about butter. Oh, this is a bit like cottage cheese or mayonnaise or something else, because we know that. It's like charades. Is it bigger than a bread box? Right? Like to go to food instantly. It's just kind of funny how we move through things like that communication that we do. Isn't it really interesting if you think about it, how we can communicate in all these different ways with using words or without words? Okay. There in the painting, I do the thing. You're welcome. So much explanation there, Chris. Thank you so much. I'm looking at the edge of this finger. What I'm trying to do here, let me be very specific in my language, what I'm trying to do here. So this is the focal point. It's the lips and the fingertips on the lips. How do I bring that into this idea of focus? Look here. And right away, we already see one thing, saturation is all here. This is the most saturated. I'm using cad red hue right out of the tube, right there. The other thing is high contrast. This is the darkest dark. Besides that, the eye up here. And probably what I could do is bring in a little bit of the light that's on the eyelash there to darken up or lighten up this area. Bring more attention to the lips. That a little shape like that will do that. But for the most part, the next steps, because I already have the saturation, I already have the high contrast there, edges. I want to make these edges really sharp. Okay, continue with that, these saturations within these areas, but I want to sharpen up a lot of these edges as well. So, for example, this finger, even in the photo, this finger here, let me go to it. Really sharp edge against that lip, right? Probably one of the most important fingers. And can I scrape it? Let's try and scrape it first. Gonna be very quiet while we're scraping. Oh, my God. No, it's not coming off the way I want it. You ever do this thing like you're trying to scrape something? It's kind of like opening up like a bag of chips that's really hard to open. And so at the same time as you're pulling the bag of chips open, you're trying to like brace for that tear where it's going to just all at once tear open, and you don't want to throw the chips everywhere. It's like that with the scraping of this palette knife. I'm pressing down maybe too hard. Maybe that's what it is. And then I go to put pressure and it doesn't want to move. And I'm waiting for that like crunch where it just goes through the whole painting, not moving. And then too much pressure, it overloads. And then we go across the whole painting. That's what I'm afraid of. Bag of chips. See, always goes back to food. Painting's like a bag of chips. Oh, I got someone from Twitch. Mocap. Hello, nice work. Welcome, Mocap. Appreciate you. A lot of the chat that I'm talking through, Mocap, is on YouTube because I'm streaming to both places at the same time. I'm here. If you have any questions about painting or oil painting in general, we've been talking about a lot of stuff. Travel Seeker says, makes sense to me. Let's go with that. Yeah. The food analogies with oil paint are abound within here. They're everywhere. Okay, come on, pinky. Let's get the tip of that pinky in there. Very sharp. The shape has to be there too. Look at this. I'm bringing out the maul stick. Oh my God. Oof. Now, the one thing that I want to do, see how I'm using white? Like I wasn't able to scrape that out. So I'm just a very clean brush with titanium white right out of the tube. Very opaque. Very opaque. But, there's always a but. There's always a big but that I have to talk about. Not that kind of but. Get your mind out of the gutter. But the one thing I don't want to do is for this very opaque, very impasto stroke to show a lot of shadows from the brush. Because we'll create texture with these brushes, you know, especially when it's very, very thick paint, very impasto paint. I wanted to kind of hint, very similar to just the raw paper, you know, like that. I don't want it to override that feeling. I still want the silence of that negative space in places, right? So I have to think about those little shadows that this is creating. I'm being very exact without being exact. I'm also thinking about, yes, they're going to be there anyways. There's going to be some of it there. So I'm going across the form on these fingers. I love going across the form on fingers because you can go in this kind of circular motion like this. Let me do it here. Like you go cylinder, right? You see this? Cylinder. I'm thinking cylinder. I mean, the body is just a bunch of tubes, right? A bunch of cylinders. That's all it is. Inside and out, just a bunch of tubes. You see how that describes a form there? It's not just... Actually, it looks better on my end than your end. Let's do it a little bit more like larger. Cylinder. Ooh, that side could have been better if it was straight up and down. Another, like a continuation of it. This is across the form, okay? Across the form. So I'm describing the shape of that form as I'm putting it down. Yeah, it feels a bit more like a cylinder. Hopefully you guys see that. Good morning. Hi, another person. Good morning. It's actually 12:30 for me, so good afternoon as well. When I worked in a company there, I telecommuted, worked with people all over the world, we would all say the same thing. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night. But the Italian guy I worked with, awesome guy, would just say ciao, and it meant everything all at once. And it was like, yes, let's just say ciao. Ciao. Nice. You say, this subject looks like she just saw one of my paintings and said, oh my God, this is life-changing. Yes. Just like that time I saw one of your paintings. I still want to do those small heads. I hope I got that right. I'm pretty sure that was you. Yeah. Yeah, that was you. Look, I do has memory. I have some memory. Okay. I love how this finger here, this one finger, look how specific I'm working here. This finger that I'm on, you see that shadow that's cast over that finger? Look how beautiful that is. Right when this finger here touches the lips, what I want you guys to see, because painting and drawing is all about seeing. If you see it, you can do it, okay, with training, but you got to see it first, right? You got to see it and then understand it. But right where that finger, this finger where my brush is on, see, look over here on the reference, that finger, right? It's in shadow. Look at the occlusion shadow that separates that finger from the top lip. That is one of the most gorgeous little vertical lines that have softness within it on either side. It is just beautiful. Like this finger here, you see that. And I got lucky. Talking about luck again. No, I did that intentionally. See that little darkness right there? That hints at that occlusion shadow. Now our brains look at this. See, like this is a little dark mark here, little occlusion shadow there, right? And it's on that finger at the right. But our brains are not thinking, most people's brains aren't thinking occlusion shadow, right? They just see that and they say, that feels right. Because most of us have seen things like this happen, throughout all of our years. We're constantly training our eyes with light and we pick up on it. Whether we know it or not, whether we're very conscious of it or not, we pick up on these little cues of information. And as artists, when we can see these things, when we can see these little small things, I think that's what can make the difference between having to paint every single little tiny thing and understanding it in its simplicity and putting it down simply. You see that cylinder, trying to do that cylinder there. It's not there yet. I need a smaller brush. Working small. I like working in flat brushes all the time. You know what? I'm going to go with it. I'm going to try. I haven't touched this brush yet. This is a Princeton Aspen brush. This was one of those purchases where you go, oh, this guy's using it and I love his artwork and he used that brush. If I use that brush, I'd be just as good. That's my thought. And guess what? It was very wrong. So wrong. I think this is the value I want. That finger gets very saturated. The shadow shape is very saturated here on the finger, and I want to grab that because it's also a small value change that speaks a little bit about. Nope, didn't get it down. Come on, brush. It's all the brush's fault. This saturation is also a little bit darker, and it speaks about the transition of the shape of this finger as well. Oof. Okay, go away, brush. This feels more like a hog's hair bristle or something than what I want. I actually ordered more brushes from Rosemary and Company. Do I need more brushes? No, but I'm looking to replace a lot of these Artsmith brushes that I love because they're wearing down to nothing. And these are the cheapest brushes on the planet. They're so cheap, but they just, I don't know. Maybe it's just me and how I've worked with them. But I really like the brushes. Okay, I'm going to go for this Nick Pro brush. And now these brushes aren't too bad. They're very soft. They're synthetic, but look at that. Can you see that? No, I don't. I need something that doesn't fall apart like that. I may have to just clean out this brush here and use it. Yeah, I'm just going to use it. If you guys ever see Art Smith brushes anywhere, please let me know. They were at Joann Fabric, but Joann Fabric closed down. It's a fabric store here in America. If you don't live in America, I always say that because I like thinking about the world in general. We tend to not do that here in this country. So I like to include that as a possibility. I think that came out of me working with people all over the world. And, the funny thing, well, interesting more than funny. The interesting thing about working with people all over the world is there's a tendency, especially for the more southern states here in America, to use a lot of idioms. Like, what's a good idiom? There's one I have in my head, but I don't want to use it because I don't like it. Well, I'll use it anyways. Like, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. That's an idiom here in America. And you say that to people in other countries and they're like, what are you talking about? Like they have no idea what you're talking about. But then also I've heard idioms from other countries. I can't remember any right now, but they're also really interesting. And you're like, what are you talking about? I have no idea. But that kind of translation that we have to do. So that resolves into anytime I talk about like stores around here or whatever, I add that caveat like, oh, this is this type of store here in America. I think it's the same true. It's everywhere. Like if I talk about Aldi's versus Safeway versus Food Lion, Kroger, all of these grocery stores, right? And some of you know some of them and some others don't know other ones. I think it's kind of interesting. Okay. Whoa, lots of comments. We always need more brushes. Yeah. I need some decent brushes, but I don't want to spend too much. They're so expensive now. Oh, it's so annoying. Well, kind of annoying, but and kind of not, because here's the interesting thing is the tariffs came in. Stupid tariffs. Those came in. And all of the brushes made in America doubled in price. Sometimes some of them tripled in price. Okay. And then you go to Rosemary and Company, which at the time were the most expensive brushes you can buy, but they're in the UK. For some reason, their prices haven't gone up. And so now you look at what was normally the Princeton brands that were very inexpensive are like $15 for this size brush. And then the same brush on Rosemary, which is arguably a better quality brush, is the same price or less. And you're like, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm going to be spending more on brushes now because that's the way things are. But why would I go with the ones made in America? They're not as good. I'll get the higher quality at the same price. And, for a while, I did not buy Rosemary and Company, not only because they were expensive at the time, and they're still expensive, right? Good brushes, very good brushes, well made, but expensive. But at one point, and a lot of their brushes still use hairs from real animals. And I think that's completely unnecessary, especially when the animals are endangered or getting close to extinction. It's time to switch away from that. You do not need sable brushes. I think the sable is whatever animal that is, where the sable comes off of is endangered now. I don't think that they're doing well. I want to go in here and add in this white at the end of this finger. it's maybe too detailed. And I don't think the coloration is going to work on it, but we'll see. I feel like I get quiet when I'm being more detailed. It's kind of like I'm about to putt on a putting green, on Golf Channel. And you get really quiet. The announcers are quiet. And I'm like, why are you quiet? I mean, they can hear it. They can't even hear you anyways. Why are you quiet? I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe they could. I'd have to ask my brother. He's the golfer. Okay. Cleaning a plastic palette with soap and water can be a bit tough. What palette are you using again? I know you said it before. As cheap as you can buy. This is a piece of standard pane of glass that cost about $1 at the hardware store, 8 by 10 in size. It is not reinforced glass. It's cheap. And to clean it, watch this. See that? See my my super expensive cleaning tool? This is probably like 1 cent to buy this. Clean. Done. But I will say this, don't let it dry on your palette, okay? Don't let the stuff dry on your palette. As soon as you're done painting, okay, as soon as you're done, prepare for the next session. Scrape it off while it's wet. It comes off instantly. Saves you a lot of time and effort. Oh gosh, the kitten's back. What do you want now, baby? But yeah, just a piece of glass. Be careful with the glass. It will cut you though on the edges. So that's why I've taped up the edges. And that's, what I do. And it's a stationary thing, right? It's just here. It will not go anywhere with me. So I don't have to worry about this, me dropping it and shattering the glass, right? I don't have to worry about that. I do have a Yugo Pochade box. U.go. The letter U.go Pochade box. And I use that for any kind of plein air stuff I do. And that also has a gray glass palette, but I'm pretty sure, and that was expensive. It was too expensive, especially for how much I use it. I don't use it much right now. But that glass in there, I'm pretty sure is reinforced. So if I drop it, it's still going to be fine. But I always talk about there's certain things that you can go buy at the art store and, they'll charge you an arm and a leg for it. Like masking tape, the simple yellow tape at art stores, it's like $20 a roll or something. You go to a hardware store, the same exact tape, $2 a roll. And it's just kind of ridiculous in some things. If you could go get Masonite at a hardware store, it'll be very inexpensive. But if you try and buy the same Masonite at an art store, it's going to be very expensive. There's a premium to art supplies. Oh, it's got this name on it. It's like when I was going to get glasses, they had like Nike brand glasses and Oakley and all this other stuff. And I don't care about that. And I was like, no, I'm not going to spend an extra $150 for glasses that felt exactly the same as this like $10 pair. So yeah, Chris, just a super cheap piece of glass. I use safflower oil to clean brushes while I paint and a little mineral spirits only if needed. And then for medium, just some walnut oil, but rarely. Yeah, I don't even clean while I paint, but at the end, I'll clean out all of these brushes with safflower oil. And then I don't even wash them after that. They just stick they're just in this thing. They've been here for months, some of them that I haven't touched in a while, and they're perfectly fine with a little bit of their safflower oil in them. Stay so much better than if you clean them with water, honestly. So much better. Now, if I run out of a particular size brush and I'm going from one extreme value to the other or one extreme color to the other, I'll dip into some safflower oil to get the brush really clean if I need that. But only in that specific instance do I need it that clean. 99% of the time, just wiping out most of the paint out of the brush into my napkin will give me as little paint in that brush as needed so that I can change my color without any of that being a problem. There's that little mark. I'm not sure if it's not there yet. A little bit darker and further up. Soft edges right there. Now it calls for a separation of the underside of that lip being a little bit lighter with more saturation to it. But I already do the thing where I have certain brushes for certain colors, like separation within the painting. So most of the time my brushes are not moving from one extreme color or value to the other. They're already prepared for that area of the painting. So it relieves this need to clean the brushes during the painting process. Let me see. That was my partner texting me. No, it wasn't. It was T-Mobile. I don't care, T-Mobile. Do not disturb. Ugh. Hobby Lobby used to carry some decent ones like Winsor & Newton, but not all they seem. Now all they seem to have are those Master's Touch. Yeah, I would probably like the Master's Touch, but I don't shop at Hobby Lobby. I boycott Hobby Lobby. I could go into why, but I won't. Avoiding some of the more politically charged topics. Because we have a Hobby Lobby here, and it'd be very easy for me to go to it, but I go up to Meininger's in Colorado Springs. And that's where I buy any supplies I need. Loving all of that. Looking really good. This underside of the nose, there's so many opportunities here that I can bring. Are you kidding me? Why are you still messaging me? How did you get through Do Not Disturb? My goodness. Stop bothering me. Oof, that really annoys me. I think I missed some comments. Sorry, guys. Cleaning plastic, safflower oil, Hobby Lobby. No, I didn't. Okay. Oh, nice. Taking care of my art supplies shopping issue by being out of art money. So now I don't go often. You know? That, yeah, having an allowance, an art allowance, very important because, dude, it's like a candy store when I go in there. Heck yeah, let's try this, let's try that, let's try this. And then you get home and you hate it. You have like a whole pile of it. And you're like, well, darn it. What am I going to do now? Give it away, I guess. That was that Griffin paint by Winsor & Newton, the Alkyd paint. Really loved it. Smelled too bad. I ended up giving it away. Shipped it to somebody. Chris, you somehow reminded me of a rerun I saw from Bob Ross. He said a special guest, Ben Stahl, probably misspelled it. Look up Bob Ross portrait, and it will show up as Painting Sally. You think? Oh, that's interesting. You know, I'll take that as a compliment. If I'm reminding you of Bob Ross, maybe I did something as awesome as he did. If you go on Twitch, you know the biggest art streamer on Twitch is Bob Ross. And I just absolutely love that. Just still so good. This, you know, all these years later. So approachable. I've spoken to many artists that, they were influenced by Bob Ross, and that's what got them into painting. We all say these things like, I love Bob Ross. I'm not going to paint like Bob Ross, this kind of commentary, which I think is fine. Like we were looking at Michael James Smith, amazing artist, super, super detailed, very exact. Every painting looks like a photograph. Amazing artist. Would I paint like him? Heck no. So we can have this amazing like conversation about art and say, oh, I do not like this person at all. I do not like Jackson Pollock. I actually like Jackson Pollock, but that's what you hear most. Usually about the most avant-garde artists out there, you'll get a lot of commentary. Like Duchamp. I love Duchamp. Oh, I love the satire of Duchamp. Just really challenging the art world is wonderful. So I love these very contemporary artists. Would I do things like them? No. And certain artists, I'm like, no, I do not like them. I don't like your painting. And that can be fine. That'd be totally cool. We can move through this art thing with the discourse that is based in celebration of artists and how they do things and how different it is and how, everyone can kind of further this amazing art thing, have a discourse about it, and then go, cool, I still think you're a cool person, even though you don't like this other artist. Oh, I just meant that your ASMR reminded me of that Ben Stahl episode. He was painting more of it the impressionist way, but he was wonderful. Oh, okay, cool. Awesome. I'm glad I have some ASMR going on. I understand somewhat of the concept of ASMR, but I've not really focused on it or anything. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not trying to adjust my voice for it to sound better in some way. Or whatever, or have a silence. Maybe I should put mics on my brushes. That would be kind of cool. You could hear the brushstroke kind of going over the paper, swishing sounds. I don't know. What would it sound like? I would never have that thought unless I was on this stream with you guys. This is one of the most wonderful things about doing these streams is going down a different road of thought that I would never think about until something was mentioned around that way. Yeah, have you checked out this stream? This guy, he like puts mics on his brushes. And it's fantastic until he gets angry and slams them down onto his can, after he's done. It's really loud. But then the rest of it's like really calm and relaxing. I listen to it right before I go to sleep. There you go. The stream is all about putting you to sleep. Welcome to Nighttime Painting with Chris Bevan. Get all snuggly and warm in your bed as I work on this nude painting. Oh, that would be funny. Let's do that. Let's take this internet thing to the next level. Travel Seeker, I love Duchamp. Tolerate Pollock. But Rothko, I just can't. Oh, man. Okay. I'm sorry you're gone, Travel Seeker. You can't be here anymore. No. He said he didn't like Rothko. No, I really love Rothko too. I'm one of those kind of crazy non-committal maybe people on a lot of things where I'm like, I see the history in this and I love it. And I really like in Texas, there's this Rothko chapel I really want to go to and experience. I think, it's going to be like a meditative experience, I hope. But yeah, I do like the idea of Rothko, but would I paint like Rothko? No. I'm trying to think of, and in order to be partial, or not partial, but in order for me to have an opinion, I guess, a real opinion, not just love everything, who do I not like? Well, I mean, Michael James Smith. I don't like his art. I don't like the way he paints. Okay, it's just a picture. It feels boring to me. I'm like, okay, it's boats. Oh, it's a forest scene. Okay, I know exactly what it is. There's nothing more to kind of figure out about it, right? I don't really like his paintings. Are the paintings bad now that Chris said that? No, of course not. They're still amazing, right? In so many different ways. So I don't like his, but what about bigger artists that I'm like, oh, heck no, I can't get into that. I don't know what they're on, but Renoir. Was that the guy that was with Van Gogh for a bit? That was Renoir, right? I think so. That guy, I don't like his paintings. I've never liked his paintings. I've seen his paintings in person at the Art Institute of Chicago when I went to school there years and years ago. And I was still like, yuck. Everything was just too dreamlike. Just, if I'm thinking about the right person, I need to look them up, make sure I got the right name. But soft edges everywhere. Didn't like a lot of the subject matter. Just not for me. Didn't really like Renoir. And I say that to some people and they're like, oh my God, I hate you. Jokingly, of course. They're joking about that. Maybe. There's these little moments. Okay, I want to get back to the painting just for a second. See this? Well, you can't really see it. Okay, we're going 4K. Put on the seatbelts. We're going 4K. Give me a second. Okay, maybe you get a little bit more understanding, a closeness to this actual painting. Zoomed in and at 4K. Hopefully there's enough pixels being shot over the internets in your direction that you can see this. There's these moments that happen within just allowing the brush to be a brush that I love. And this is part of the reason why maybe I don't like Michael James Smith, because there's no evidence of brush in his paintings. It is what it is, right? Like, especially this moment here, see where it that's a brush, this whole brush stroke there, and it shows through. You can see every single delineation of each hair. I'm not going to touch that brush stroke. I think it's beautiful. Right here in the nose, there's a little bit of transparency that comes through and little like dots or whatever. I mean, up here, we're looking at paint, right? And that's the idea. Paint up close. And then back here, nose with a little bit lighter value. But it's just the paint being a little bit more transparent, in that space. Yeah. I wish I could do 4K on this stream constantly, but the camera's going to overheat. I've heard Bob Ross paints are more or less student grade. I don't know. If they are, they're a little bit expensive to be student grade. And the difference between professional and student is just pigment load. So, and there has been no paint so far that I have seen where pigment load has made a difference in saturation, vibrance, working properties, as long as the mixtures are pretty good. Like the pigment load in Gamblin versus the oil in that makes them super thick. The pigment load in M Graham versus all the oil in that makes them super thin and runny. So that has different viscosity within that. The only difference I've seen is when you have student brands on your palette versus the professional brands, the tinting strength of the professional brands are much greater than the student grade, right? So it does have higher tinting strength because it has more pigment per oil within that. And it totally makes sense. But is it worth, 2-3 times the price? Sometimes not. Sometimes yes, sometimes not. I kind of like mixing the two. For example, having student grade titanium white. Well, you can't see this. I'm pointing at my palette. You can't see. Whoop. So doing a student grade titanium white, okay, will allow you to kind of tone down the titanium white so it's not so, it doesn't tint super strong, and you can use more of that with all the other colors, and the colors shine, and the professional brand colors would shine through a bit more, right? So you can use that to your advantage. It's very similar to how you'll see a lot of manufacturers that'll make a titanium white and then a titanium plus zinc white. They do that specifically so it kind of tones down the strength of that titanium a bit, because sometimes it's too strong. Sometimes it overwrites everything on the palette. Like, for example, I would like any phthalo, give me phthalos and student brands all day long so that the tinting strength is calmed down just a little bit. I mean, phthalos just need to calm the F down. I mean, that tinting strength is ridiculous. They're like dyes more than they are paints. But yeah, Bob Ross student grade, if you can get them at good prices, I would try them. It's all about the feeling of the paint anyways, the viscosity and what you love about it, and the brush and the surface, all connected. Travel Seeker, haha, I'm sorry, felt like I had to speak my truth. I still want to visit the chapel though. No, of course, speak your truth. We all have wonderful opinions. Yes, don't apologize for it. It's totally cool. I mean, I'll probably apologize for my opinion too. Like, if you feel different than me, I mean, you are wrong, but I'm kidding. If you feel different than me, then that's wonderful. Let's have a discussion about it, right? Gauguin. Yes, Gauguin. Who was I saying? I was not saying Gauguin. G-A-U, oh gosh, I know you spelled it right. G-A-U-G-U-I-N, Gauguin. Okay. Paul Gauguin. No, it wasn't Gauguin. Yeah, well, maybe it was. The Polynesian paintings. I'm looking at Paul Gauguin. I'm not showing my screen right now. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really care for the Polynesian subject matter a lot with Paul Gauguin. I do think it is Renoir, so not the guy connected to with Van Gogh at that one time. So I'm going to look at Renoir. How do you spell Renoir? R-E-N-O-I-R. R-E-N-O-I-R. Pierre Auguste Renoir. No, I like Renoir. Renoir reminds me of Toulouse-Lautrec. I do like some of Renoir. It gets a little bit airy and kind of like storybookish in some of them. But yeah, I think I was thinking about Gauguin. It's so American. Gauguin, right? Oof. If I had to choose, I would probably say I don't like either one, Renoir or Gauguin. Here, let's look at my screen. So 1904, 1914, these kind of paintings from Renoir, they feel like I don't know, like uncommittal, airy for no reason, kind of too soft, not thought out, just throwing down some soft brush strokes everywhere constantly. But then I'm looking at some up here. I mean, this is gorgeous. 1879, a little bit earlier, right? That's beautiful. I mean, this reminds me of Monet, right? That's beautiful. Reminds me of Van Gogh a bit. That Renoir. A gorgeous portrait here. I mean, that's like straight out of Van Gogh's book, just a bit softer, right? Beautiful. Not this one. No, too soft. Like fell into that softness a bit more. And we get into some harder edges here. Look at this. I mean, this is beautiful. A little bit harder. And I think it's like we have this foreground and this background, and Renoir loved the background and started doing the soft background with everything. I mean, wow, look at that. See, this is super early, super detailed. Remember, I've talked about all the time about us representational artists moving from, super detailed stuff. So this is how we're trying to begin to understand the world in this very detailed way. Look at all this like information. It's ridiculous. Like, wow. I didn't know that was a Renoir. Look at these flowers. Look at all this. Gorgeous. So we start out this way. I think this is my understanding of generalization of artists. And then we begin to move away from it. We begin to simplify, see the simplicity. Look at this beautiful portrait. Like if you would say this is Renoir, I would say, no, you don't know what you're talking about. This is... Oh, look at those hands, guys. Oh my goodness, Renoir. Okay, I like some Renoir, don't like some Renoir. I guess the later Renoir I don't like as much. I mean, that's just... I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Hideous. It's so bad. I think it's more the subjects. It's so bad it's kind of going on to the good side of things. Like it's making fun of itself. It's so bad. Okay, let's go Gauguin. Let's go Gauguin. G-A-U-G-I-N. G-U-I-N. Paul Gauguin. Hopefully we have... Look at this one. Oh, it's a bad quality. The energy and coloration within this thigh. Come on. The layering of paint there, and see how everything's kind of going with the form. You can feel the transition of the quadricep down to the side and this tendon that connects to the oh geez, what do you call them? Hamstrings. Green, light blue, pink, green, bright yellow. Jeez, that's amazing. Amazing. Okay, Gauguin. I see you. Beautiful. Oh, the four Breton women. I remember that. See, this is beautiful too. I love this. Well, it's not even oil. It's some kind of pastel. That's gorgeous. And I think later on in life, it looks like very influenced by Cezanne there. Of course, I mean, anytime you put peaches on a table, people think Cezanne, right? Compositionally, this is gorgeous. That is not, in my opinion. Of course, this is all my opinion. But no, I'm not really liking a lot of the later Gauguin. The earlier Gauguin, really liked. But I mean, there is a departure you can see. Like, if there's some separation, you can kind of connect Gauguin with a lot of Impressionists at the time in 1879 paintings. But when we get down to 1892, 20 years later, about 20 years later, where he's painting in Polynesia, I believe. I'm not sure. I just said that out of my, just guessing that. This is Gauguin's voice. This is his voice here. He separated himself, found, who he was at this point. Well, this is amazing. There's pictures of these people. Paul Gauguin, Alphonse Mucha, Ludek Marold, and Anna the. Oh, wow. That's really cool to see photos of people that long ago. Oh, see this? This is a really famous painting. I could enjoy it for its history, but I don't know if I like the painting that much. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, let's go back here. Back to what we were doing. Sorry. Sidetrack. Has anyone tried... let me make sure I didn't miss any comments. Oh, okay. Has anyone tried tusk and pine paints? I've seen them on Amazon a ton lately and heard good things about them on David Kassan's stream recently. Well, if David Kassan is talking about paints, he knows his stuff. But, look how David Kassan paints as well. I've never heard anything about Tuscan pine paints. I'm going to look them up. Oh, they're on Jerry's Artorama as well. Let's see the cost of them. They're anywhere from $8.99 to $1,498 in range. Look at this. Tuscan pine. That's going to be like, crushed up jewels or something to make that paint. Hey, Travel Seeker, buy one of those tubes. Tell me what it's like. Oh, I love this. I love when they do the tint, tone, and shade with all of their paints. It gives you so much more information about these paints. Permanent orange deep, alizarin orange, 150 milliliters. So 17, not too bad in price. Let's look at so titanium white in linseed, not sure why this is in safflower. So $8.99 for safflower oil, 40 milliliters. Not bad in price. They are definitely professional grade pricing, professional grade paints, obviously. So higher pigment load. Where's the one that is like $1,400? A huge line of colors. Oh my goodness. Luminous magenta, luminous coral, gold pearlescent, copper pearlescence. Every color on the planet, right? Wow. You can get anything here. But I know how, I know David Kassan's art, super detailed artist, right? Very, very detailed. So I, kind of take it with how he likes to paint, right? The viscosity or how the paint should feel to him. Yeah, not to say student grade is always bad. No, I paint with mostly student grade paints. I like this idea of being able to achieve something very inexpensively, to have the resilience within that. I think that's really, really good. Bonnard, yes, I really like Bonnard. Bonnard. We have to say it with a French accent. Let's look at Bonnard real quick. The thing I love about Bonnard, I think it's, Pierre Bernard. What I like about Bonnard, and I think is this the right painter I'm thinking of? Yes. Yeah, I think I want to see some of his later work because it will devolve into color. Look at this. Yes. Look at that. Okay, Bonnard has proven me right as well. It's like my idea of like how representational artists move through paint, right? Earlier works, much more detailed. I think there's even more detailed. Look at this. Gorgeous painting. Actually, it looked more detailed when it's smaller, but wow, it's more expressive than I thought. But then this kind of traveling away from that into just this devolving of shape, specifically that dog. Oh my goodness, that dog. Look at that. Look at that. Let's just frame the puppy perfectly and flatten it out. That's kind of funny. But no, I love the coloration. There's like this play with color. But I like the history of Bernard. What I heard about Bernard from Nicholas Uribe, and I trust him on his historical knowledge of these artists, is for 30 years, he painted, most of his paintings were from the interior of his home. And being able to just dive into, like, this is my home, this is my surroundings, this is who I am as an artist. And I could spend 30 years here, always painting from it, and still achieve something amazing, still learn, still further the art form with this limitation, this like of subject matter, and yet it's still being this infinite idea of subject is beautiful. It really kind of speaks, throws in the face of this idea. I just love his treatment of light. Yeah, it's beautiful. Gustav Caillebotte. Oh my God. Caillebotte. I have no idea how to say that. I'm going to destroy the name Gustav Caillebotte. But I love the idea of having a history all in one place. Let's look at Gustav. Oh yeah. I mean, this is super famous painting. The I didn't get to see this in Musée d'Orsay when I went there. Yeah, the floor scrapers or something, I think it's called in English. Oh, and this painting, yeah, this is Artist Studio Chicago, one of their most prized pieces. Seen this so many times in person. Yeah, the light. Such a sense of atmosphere here. And so subtle. The subtlety of it is just beyond amazing. I could look at paintings all day long and talk about them and learn from them. Okay, 1873, 77, 78, 78. I'm looking for like an evolution, 1884. So we're 10 years later. An evolution, not in subject matter, but like evolution in application. And you can see a simplification through these paintings. And not much later, 10 years later? I mean, it could be a tremendous amount of time for us as artists, but yeah, look at this. So this is a painting that, and I'm thinking about Monet as well, did this a lot, where we talk about, so think about this painting. I'm going to switch over real quick. Okay. And I love this as a wonderful lesson. Okay, let me switch back to here, and I need to zoom out. Whoop, 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 whoop. Value range. Yay. Okay. So think about that painting we're just looking at. I'll go back to it real quick. It's kind of hard to do that. Okay. Maybe I should just pull it into the stream. I don't know. That'd be a lot longer. So that painting is probably within this value range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's it. Like, don't even look at the bottom of this, just the top value range. And it's intentional. Like, I want to get this sense of atmosphere within my painting. Compress your value range. Bring everything together. And within that, when we compress those value ranges, definitely, I'm going to try and zoom in as far as I can. Oh, what a good quality image. I can look at it, like the thickness of the paint and the texture of the canvas and the amazing, wow, so good. Actually, I don't think he's even reached the lightest light. Like that's not titanium white. Maybe this little chunk, but a bit of that is like got yellow in it. And the darkest dark, maybe right here, that little tiny bit, darkest dark. So there's a compression with every value in between there. There's a compression that goes on between those value ranges. And I'll challenge everyone here to do this. Like whatever subject matter you're painting next, think about it within a value compression. Like decide that I'm not going to paint the black that I see within that image. I'm going to change that black. Every time I see black in that image, I'm going to move it all the way up here. Or all the way up here, be crazy about it, all the way up there. And so this becomes my darkest dark. I still have this lightest light. This is my darkest dark. But then there's all these other values within that image. So you compress them down. You simplify. It's one of the, I would say, the most fun and easy to understand, at least for me, ways of departing away from our images. Okay. In a very subtle way, a mathematical way, just saying, oh, we're just bringing everything lighter, making it lighter, in that way. And it's a wonderful way to kind of slowly begin to move away from imagery and having more opinion on how the paint should go down, rather than just saying, let's paint it exactly the way it is. Let's copy that image exactly. And on this painting, I'm doing it. These values here are a lot lighter. Everything's a lot lighter. More saturation than there, This darkest dark could probably come up, especially right there in the edge of the mouth. It would probably bring it up a little bit. This painting's almost done. I think tomorrow, am I going to work on it tomorrow? Tomorrow's Sunday. Where is my calendar? No, tomorrow. Let's talk about tomorrow, guys, because we're done today with this painting so far. I'm going to go back to here. So tomorrow is episode 2 for my beginning drawing course for painters. So we're focusing on accuracy. It's going to be at 1.2 for tomorrow. That's going to be starting at 1 p.m. on stream, Mountain Daylight Time, which is -600, -6 UTC to be specific. So it'll be a little bit, actually, what is it right now? It'll be 18 minutes before right now, because it's 1:18 right now. So I'll be starting that at 1 o'clock, and that'll be after Urban Sketchers in the morning. So we're not going to be continuing on this painting tomorrow. I'm going to be going back to that drawing course, and just to speak about that for a moment, the drawing course starts on the stream. Commentary is welcome on the stream. That's why it's there, because I like the connection between everyone. But after the course is done, it'll still be in a video format, a stream video format. But the comments, I'm going to turn the comments off on there after the stream. I'm going to edit that video down into hopefully a more compressed version, put that on my regular YouTube's list, which you'll see the one from last week is already up. So it'll be a little bit more compressed. Also on that one, no comments on that one. Then it's going to go onto my website, Inside the Painter's Path, chrisbevan.com/TPP. There's my website there, /TPP at the end for the Painter's Path. Or go to my website and you can see the Painter's Path up there. That way you can follow along on my website, and that's where all the commentary is going to happen, the feedback, show me your work. And there is a cost associated with it. $10 a month, $5 for the first month, half off kind of thing. Yep, that's my selling for that. Okay. So a good way to support me, besides being here and just chatting, because I love that too. And I appreciate everyone that's here and shows up and asks questions. Honestly, the commentary I get here helps me make a better painting, helps me understand how to speak about these things a bit better. So I appreciate you guys tremendously for being here. So thank you, everyone. And I'll see you tomorrow with the course, the beginner drawing course for painters, which is super important. the better we draw, the better we paint, because we're drawing when we paint at the same time. Okay, that's it. Done with my spiel. Long stream today. Appreciate everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your Saturday, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.